I know. I had to kind of go back to the 20s for you today.
That's hot stuff.
Thank you.
Hey guys. Thank you. I wore a little warmer outfit today. It's chilly.
I know, it's so chilly. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so we were just discussing highlights of this weekend. So, do you have any highlights from Whedoncon?
It's the same as yesterday. I love the crafting, and I don't understand why we don't do that at every convention.
Yes.
It's so relaxing. When I was little, one of my favorite things to do, my Sunday school teacher, I had this Sunday school teacher for many years. She was amazing. She was world traveled. She went all over the place.
Yeah.
She had the most amazing backyard with all kinds of different animals and things, and I would go over there and she taught me how to cross stitch. And we would sit for hours and cross stitch together and talk about life.
Do you need them to use a different microphone?
Nice it was. Just
Oh yeah, go ahead.
like that.
Ouch.
Now we all just sit around and look at our phones together.
Barely go outside. It's like
Yeah.
video games, computer, and mobile games, pretty much.
Yeah, it was really sweet. My daughter loved the fan. Is anybody here from yesterday? Yeah.
Summer's microphone is gone.
I think we need to. Let's put it in.
Do we need it?
Yeah.
I can't.
Now, sir.
Oh, I can't. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Y'all
Yeah.
hear it now?
Yeah. This mic is powerful. Did you also have home ec classes? I feel like what happened to home ec school?
You still need to eat. It is not a lost art. People still need, and more than ever. I didn't go to school. I was homeschooled. So home ec has been.
How many people out there in school?
I think it's just me.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it for my girls. I don't know. You know, there's so many benefits. I was really fortunate because again we were really involved in our church growing up. We had an amazing. We had a really amazing supportive homeschool group. So it wasn't people often ask me, do we miss being around kids and I was but we had a lot more freedom. We could choose if we wanted to go on an all-day trip somewhere with the homeschool group. It was really adventurous. And we spent a lot of time in each other's homes, which was sweet because I was talking to my mom about it the other day, saying I need to be able to get out with the girls, and she said, don't you remember we were never home? And it's true, we weren't. We were always on some adventure. So it really worked out in that way for me. I think I had a little bit of a hard time because the group was all different ages, which was interesting. I don't know what it was like for you. I found it kind of hard to be around my peers. Really,
Yeah.
too. I was a little awkward, a little too maybe sincere or too vulnerable. Like I didn't go through that middle school conditioning where you start to get kind of like and I'm generalizing, but so that part, especially like when I came to LA and started trying to play like high school kids, I didn't and His River, yeah.
Now, I heard you're like a professionally trained dancer.
Yeah.
So I want to know how you transitioned over, like, from dance, and I'm a dancer too, into acting. Yeah.
Well,
Can
that's
you tell us
why
what your training was. Like, was it just ballet or?
It was supposed to be everything, but I oftentimes skipped the other classes. I didn't have much of a groove, you know, I was terrible at like that. So I was supposed to go take those classes, but I was a ballerina for my very first class. I loved it. I loved the drama and sort of the romance of it and the music and the shapes. And from the very beginning, I was quite serious about it. And my parents never had to push me into doing it. It was what I wanted to do more than anything. And I always planned on being a ballerina. I homeschooled so that I could take classes, and then I also started teaching to help pay for my lessons, and my parents too.
I think it's crazy.
We didn't have any money, and looking back, I'm actually quite grateful for that in a lot of ways, because I think when you don't have the finances to carry you through, you have to really get resourceful. And my mama always taught us that money really doesn't stand in the way as long as you're creative. She always found a way to get us into the classes that we wanted, or to go on the trips that we needed to go on. We used to clean the dance studio to pay for my lessons, and we would repaint, and just do whatever we needed to do. My mom worked as a costume mistress for the company, and I got all the hand-me-down stuff from all my friends. I wore the used shoes, and it all worked out. It really didn't matter. And so I'm trying to. I'm now that I have my girls, I'm trying to make sure that I keep in mind all those things that really helped me to be creative and think outside the box. So anyway, I danced, and I taught, and then I had some persistent injuries. Did you have injuries too?
Yeah, and I remember it was like my hamstring. Like it didn't snap, but it was basically like I had been pushing myself too much. And I'm not, I was definitely not the most flexible person in the world. So my teacher used to kind of push me down into the splits, and you're gonna get limber, and it's the last thing I do. So,
did you ever put books on top of your feet?
That was another thing, because I was, it's funny because I went from ballet to eventually traditional Indian dance. So if you go from having pointy foot to everything is flat foot.
Flat, and
Yeah. But pointing, that was another thing, just constantly.
Well, that's what I did, because my feet were not terrible, but they weren't. I didn't have quite the arch that I wanted, so I would put the books on top of my feet to push them down. And what happened is that I had really bad tendonitis in both of my heels. And I kept going, and then I broke one of my toes, and then I kept dancing on it broken because I didn't want any of the girls to get my rolls. And
That's gonna break your toe. Just know that if you do point, those who may have.
I had arthritis by the time I was 10.
Oh my.
I went to the doctor, and he was like, "You have arthritis in your feet." So anyway, when I broke the toe and I kept dancing on it broken, the tendonitis in my heels, because I kept compensating to try to not put the weight evenly down when I would jump and things, and eventually it just got to the point where I couldn't keep fooling myself into continuing. And at that point, when you're really competitive, even a few days off makes you regress.
Yes.
And so I had secretly been taking a little class. And it wasn't technically an acting class, but it was a class for adults who have a fear of speaking in public. And my mom put me in the class because it was taught by this really amazing drama teacher from the University of Miami. She was an incredible force. And I was captivated by the exercises that we did, and in that class was a budding playwright, and he thought that I might be good in his play, and I was ecstatic. I was studying to be in a play, and I had the script all over the floor, and I was looking at the pages, finding my role, and the phone rang, and I scooped up the script. I don't know why I did that. I scooped up the script, and I was running, and I jumped over this piece of furniture in our living room, and I ran into the fireplace, and that's how I broke my toe. So was that
There you go. Finding your calling.
And that was the beginning of it for me, and from there I ended up coming to LA, and I booked my first commercial after a month of being there. And then after the commercial, I thought, no, I'm going to go back home and go back to dancing. I had spent all those years
And
learning
you
how to
know
be a
it too, so
dancer.
it's like, you
It
know,
was
from
my
it.
identity.
Yeah.
I thought of myself as being a ballerina. I didn't. Did you? I mean, a lot of dancers say that they, when they transition out of being a dancer, they feel like they're going to disappear. And
Oh, you feel like, you know, it's a part of your heart, you know,
It
your
is.
passion, and then to kind of separate yourself from it for so long, it's like, it's a little like strange, it's just like you feel like something's missing, I think.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I think it really helped me with some of my emotional difficulties. I think that the discipline of being very physical, they say that exercise can be even more beneficial than therapy. Because your body is meant to move. So when I came to LA and I got a manager, I remember my first week they told me, your hair is not on trend. We're gonna have to cut your hair, because I had hair, you know, all the way down for an hour to wear it up for ballet. And they said, you know, we need you to have she had taglines like, I need you to be sporty and casual, or hip and trendy, or girl next door real, or whatever.
All the descriptions are like, this is do I have anything in my closet that fits that?
Of course I didn't, because I literally shopped at the Goodwill, and my favorite thing to do was to dress in period. Like I was very out there. I went and I looked in the mirror and I cut my hair myself. I couldn't afford to get it cut, so I just cut it myself, and I felt like I disappeared. I felt like I let go of myself, and then of course you realize that no, that was, and I think we all do it. We pick a persona and we stick with it, but that's not really who you are, your essence. Which reminds me, I haven't lived in LA for a few years. I lived here for 15 years and I recently moved back to Texas, and I went to this really cool coffee shop the other day in LA. And I was sitting there, and I had my 2 kids crawling all over me, and I was wearing sweats, and I was begging my child not to take my sunglasses off because I had no makeup on. And I was like, no! by these, cute LA people.
Everybody looks so glamorous, I'm like, how is it like you look like that at 10 o'clock in the morning? What is wrong with you?
It was startling to me because I looked around the coffee shop, and I was like, there's the yoga girl, and there's
the Lululemon,
the serious actress with her hair like this and her sunglasses, and then there's the hip girl, and then there's the preppy girl who's talking about her auditions, and I have been each of you. I tried it on, but it wasn't me. It was just something I was trying, and so yeah, I realized that about my dancing too. Of course, I'll always be a dancer, and it's a part of me. But I can try something else on too, and you keep changing.
Yeah. And well, for Angel, you actually played a ballerina. So that was transition into
Yes,
kind of
which is so funny. My manager told me, don't tell anybody you're a dancer. They won't think you're an actress, which was totally the truth.
Wow.
My manager said, just focus on being a real actor. And so I changed all my dancing credits on my resume to acting credits, even though it was like, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Make it work.
So I actually missed, I tell this story all the time, but it's just, a cool thing about Joss that he had the dancing audition first before he had the acting audition for that role.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in Texas for the dance audition, even though I was still dancing. I danced for the first year I came to LA. That's how I sort of got by. So I somehow was in Texas for that audition, and then I got into the callback for the acting part. And I just thought it was really funny that here I was, I had tried for months to transition, and now I was auditioning to be a ballerina. And yeah, Joss passed me. I didn't know it was him in the room. and my first day on set was actually, I was dancing, I was wearing my pointe shoes, I was warming up, it was such a perfect transition for me, because I felt safe, because it was so funny, all my dance friends were there, because they'd been hired to play the ballet dancers, and it was so weird to have lines, and I had a big monologue, and I'll never forget, it was the first time that I heard action and I had to see lines on camera, and afterwards Joss came over and he was like, yeah, great, that was great. And then David Boreanaz came over to me and was like, see that tape on the floor, that big X? It's like, that's your mark. Yay for me. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. And then I recall that Joss really enjoyed shooting ballet. He liked the process of filming ballet, and so he added a day of extra dance scenes, which I thought was so cool, because usually they end up cutting all of that stuff out just to tell the story and have the actors say the lines. So I thought it was wonderful that he added more dance into the episode. And I never got to dance with Giselle in real life. It's a big, beautiful story, ballet, and in Texas, there's just not much demand for such things. So it was really unbelievable to dance it on TV.
So, just in my head, I'm like, oh, it's like a perfect, like, that's like the ideal role. Like, it's like, you want that type of role. So, for Firefly, like, how did that come about? Did you get a phone call? Did you contact, was it like the manager told you about this, or you got part of the room?
Joss was just starting to write it when I was doing that episode of Angel, so it just kind of worked out miraculously that I happened to be there, and he mentioned that I could do right for this role that he was writing, and it was my first audition ever for a series regular like that. It was a big role, and I was terribly underqualified, but I think, like I was saying yesterday, that it just so happened that role was like perfect for someone in my circumstances. She was very unpredictable and vulnerable and a live wire, and had a difficult time communicating, and it really worked for me. And I went in for my testing process. I remember my manager went with me because I didn't know how to fill out all the paperwork and stuff, and it was hours and hours of waiting, and afterwards Joss told me, he was really happy with my read, but he said they're not prioritizing casting in the role of River, they're prioritizing casting, Captain and all the other major roles, and so I waited for weeks to find out that I got the part. And I remember I was in my apartment, my little apartment with the scratchy. I had a really, really scratchy carpet that was treated with everything under the sun. And I remember I had the lights off, and I was barely wearing anything because it was so hot, and I couldn't afford to run the electricity. And I was just laying in the dark, and Joss called me and said, "You got it." And I thought, my life, I'm actually going to have money to go grocery shopping and stuff. It was really, really cool.
Not having to pinch pennies and what.
Yeah.
So, when you were finally on set, like, because that River is like a very, like, there's so many layers to the character. Preparing for that, because of course, like, at first it wasn't necessarily like a primary role, but, as the show progressed, it's like, there was more to the character. And how do you prepare for it? Because there's so many different, layers to a character like that. Are you pulling from personal experiences, or are you kind of just trying to put yourself in the mindset of like what like she going through?
Well, I think I always approach my characters through their physicality first, through their movement, just because I'm a dancer and I think it's easier for me. So River in particular was an easier one for me to approach that way because she didn't have very many lines, and the way that she moved through the ship was pretty significant. And Joss really let me develop that. You know, he let me take my shoes off. I was more comfortable being grounded in that way and being able to feel my feet because I was a dancer. It started out that way for me. And then in preparation, I think I don't remember doing any specific research about what River had been through, what type of mental challenges she had, because really I just felt like she was a part of me. I felt very close to the character, so all of that came pretty naturally, pretty quick. The important part for me was to be able to, when I was on set and when it was time to let it out, I had to be emotionally ready to let it out. So for me, that meant spending a lot of time alone and a lot of time with music, a lot of time with movies that inspired me or would heighten my emotions, and I would get myself right to that point. And then timing wise, you want to be. For me, I need quiet. I'm not one of those actors that can just talk and then go in and let out these intense emotions. And my character more so than other characters was called to do that. So I kind of just isolated myself and listened to pieces of music that really moved me. I remember Joss giving me the soundtrack from Gattaca. He said that was really, that it reminded him of River, so I would listen to that sometimes, and certain other movies, not necessarily ones that had characters like River. It was just about being able to connect to the emotion. So that's pretty much it. The role was just, I think, right for me at that time in my life.
What are your favorite things from working with the cast and crew? I know there's probably so many, but anything that really stands out?
There are. Well, like I was saying yesterday, I loved any scene where we were all there because we were like a crazy, wacky family, and we made each other laugh. And so any scene where we were all there was fun because we in between takes we would just sit around and talk. And so the different scenes are a lot of our cargo bay scenes, and they're, in particular for me, I loved Objects in Space because I got to be there every day. I never wanted to go home. I remember our script supervisor Jane was like, "Don't you want to go home somewhere? Don't you have laundry?" And I didn't. I lived to be there because for me it was like I thought it was a miracle that I was being paid to be an actress. And I was so young, and I had no children, no husband, and I didn't even have a little pet to take care of. So I was just there all the time, and so on Objects in Space, I had to be there, and that felt really cool. And Joss directed that one, so it was pretty special. And I remember, the part in the cargo bay where she's dreaming, and the ship is transformed, and she's surrounded by leaves, and I thought this is a dream inside a dream because I'm living my dream, and River is dreaming, so it was for me really symbolic and powerful. I loved it.
Amazing. So you went on to reprise your role as River in Serenity. Now, how did that experience differ from the Firefly? Because it's a movie, and I know there's so much that goes into the production of that.
Well, River was in a lot of the story, which was an adjustment for me because when I was doing Firefly, I was always in the B storyline, and I got to play around a lot. My roles, my scenes were sort of popped in, and I could be wacky, and wasn't carrying the plot as much. And then I remember reading the script for Serenity, and I couldn't believe how many pages River was on. First, and then Joss had the idea that he wanted her to be a human weapon, and so I trained for months to be able to do the fight scenes myself. So that too was kind of interesting because it echoed back to my first ever role when I was playing Angel, when I was doing the ballet and the acting. Now I was doing the fight scenes and the acting, and so I would oftentimes, when we were at lunch, for instance, instead of sitting with the actors, I would sit with the stunt team because I felt like I belonged with them, and so it was. I think that it helped my performance because again, the physicality really, just sets me into the scene and feels really natural for me. But
did it come naturally because of the fact that you were a dancer? Because I felt that I trained in martial arts and making that transition, it was it's kind of like dance choreography.
Yeah.
Even though it's something different, it's still that movement. But I don't know if that was the same for you.
I think so. I mean, I was surprised at how long it took for me to build up the right muscle memory, going from being a dancer to doing martial arts, because the martial arts is a lot of striking and pulling back, a lot of fast twitch movement, and also low to the ground, very
Yes.
crouching and grounded. And so my muscles did get bigger.
Because everything else is for ballet, it's being
Longer.
elongated. Yeah.
Yes, and you hold things longer. And in martial arts, it took me a long time to be able to punch and pull back fast enough, or to slash fast enough. My arms were like gummy arms, and I had to think over and over and over again for months of repetition to get that fast. And another cool thing about doing the fights is that Joss wanted to shoot them from start to finish like a dance, like a choreographed dance, because he wanted it to be obvious that it was me doing it rather than the stunt girl. Because usually when you're doing stunts, you set up the camera to best capture one hit.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna put it here so that as you cross, it looks like you're hitting. It looks like you're hitting
That you're not
the
actually
object.
knocking out your co-star. That's kind of important. Don't do that.
Actually, I did make contact with the guys because I had to. There was you couldn't hide it.
Yeah.
So there were only a few times where it was like, oh, I really did hit. I really did. They were very forgiving. Yeah. They were really sweet. I remember, though, it was funny, during the Reaver fight, for months I had done this fight with all the guys, and I would know who to hit by recognizing their face. And it was when they had their makeup on, I didn't know who was who. So then we were like, "What are we gonna do?" And they're like, "Well, just say our name."
So I know that, with all that training that you got on set when you were doing Serenity, because you went on to do Terminator, the Sarah Chronicles, and Arrow.
Woo!
And
Cameron!
that also involves a lot of physicality, so you think that all of that helped when you transitioned to those shows as well?
Yes, what's funny is I remember when I was testing for Sarah Connor, I was sitting in the waiting room with the other girls who were reading, who were also testing, and I could hear them listening to the Serenity fight scenes. The test. Yeah, I think that really gave them the boost of confidence that I could be the right girl for the job. Even though I tried to skip the audition, I originally skipped the audition, and my mom, I told my mom that I wasn't going to go because I had cast it in my mind, and I just didn't cast myself. I was casting, a statuesque sort of sculpted character. I just didn't see myself, you know. And I went in, and when I realized who was involved in the project, I changed my mind in the room. I was like, oh, I really want this now. And Josh told me later that he had thought of me when he was writing the role. So it was such an incredible process playing a Terminator. I loved it. And again, I started out with the physicality. We had movement class with my fellow Terminators because there were 3 different models in our series. And so we got into the movement class, and I felt very like Twilight Tharp, and they were like, you know, who is your Terminator? How does your Terminator come in? I was like, well, mine has a little bit of a, so it was
I wanted to hear your description.
yeah. And Josh was like, why does your Terminator look like, your Terminator walks like a horse? And I was like, it's a horse! That's how I wanted to be. It was so fun. In the beginning, I was kind of concerned, how am I going to connect with the audience? How am I going to get the audience to feel, to care about what happens to Cameron, because she's a killing machine. And, you know, she's dangerous and she's deadly, and she's, you know, in a lot of ways she's the enemy. And I found it through the first few months of being with her that she was actually quite endearing and vulnerable in some ways, because she was like a child in her learning how to be a human. You know, she made mistakes, and you know, she tried really hard, and she was so devoted to John because he was her whole reason for existing. And even though she couldn't need or want, it seemed as if she needed and wanted to matter to him. And it was such a fun process as an actor. I really, really loved that role. I miss it still. It was great.
How was your experience with
Arrow was totally different. It was, when my manager called me and said that they were thinking about having me for a role, and I thought, oh, well, yes, I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna kick and punch people, and I showed up, and they had me in these business suits and jewels and heels, and it's like, well, this is gonna make things harder. They weren't having me do any of that. I was playing a woman, I was playing a businesswoman, and at first I was quite uncomfortable in the role. And then I started getting really into it. It was fun to find that part of myself that was more mature, more womanly. You know, Cameron, I felt, even though I had grown up from River and 4400, Cameron was still quite youthful, and then Isabel was a grown woman, and she needed to have the weight of someone who could run a company. I remember having sitting down in the boardroom the first time, being at the head of the table, and just like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Stuttering the first few times of my lines, because I'm not that person at all in my life. So it was a good exercise for me as an actor. But I've got to say, I was thrilled when they said, okay, you can put on your pleather and start kicking people off stage. I remember my first fitting for the Ravager costume, you know, the alter ego, and how tight those pants were. That they had to put suspenders on them to keep them from like shimmying down, and my husband literally lifted me to get into the pants. He would lift me up off the ground and shake me into the suspenders.
Oh my God.
And then that you couldn't see very well out of the headpiece, and it gave me some major headaches. I would be like going home at night. But you know, it was still easier than some of my Terminator makeup. I remember one time they had to glue down my ears, and for some reason it was so late at night when they, because they have to take the makeup off just a little tiny bit at a time because they peel the prosthetics off. It's not like you can just wash it off. You have to peel it off and keep it so they can reuse it. And I was so tired, I was falling asleep in the chair, and then I got in my car to go home, and I realized that they hadn't unglued my ears. And I was like, I'm not going back. That way home again.
Clearly, if your ears.
Not really, it didn't matter.
I can't do that.
Not go back.
So, I know you're a sci-fi fan, so I
Yes.
need to know your top 5 favorite sci-fi films.
Sci-fi films. Okay, well, maybe number 1 is Neverending Story.
Yes.
Neverending Story. I'm gonna count The Last Unicorn, even though it's sci-fi. I got to meet Mia Farrow a few weeks ago. She did a convention, and
I don't, this is the first time I've heard that she's on the convention.
I don't know how she ended up there, but it was like seeing The Last Unicorn.
In real life.
And she gave my daughter, she had these blow up unicorns that you get inside of. And she gave one to my little daughter, Mila Jo. And then somehow I was working, I don't know what was going on in the green room, but John Barrowman put the unicorn on. Like, busted out the back of the unicorn. I was like, had to sew it up. But I did get a little tiny video clip of John Barrowman running around with Mila Jo, pretending to be a unicorn.
Aww. He's best.
A life highlight. So good with kids. Anyway,
It's
okay,
you.
where was
We're
I?
the two.
Okay, so that's 2. I'm gonna say I've watched the first Harry Potter movie about 75 times. I was going through a bad breakup at one point, and I don't know why, but the only thing that got me through was like watching Harry Potter every day. That movie is really
It has been
close to me. It does, it really does. I loved it. And let me think, what else would be in the top? I love the 3 original Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we were kids, we would watch those every Christmas. That was like, we would sit down as a family and watch all of them together. And I think, what else? Well, I guess that kind of puts me over 5. If I counted that as 1. Of course, I'm gonna think of them as soon as I walk off.
Well, you're also too, you're like us. You're one of us because you geek out as well. And I know that you're into superheroes. You may have voiced, how many of you guys know that she voiced Supergirl? Do you know that? Yeah. She's done that for, that was Batman and, was it Superman, Batman Apocalypse?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I need to know your all-time favorite hero.
She-Ra, Princess of Power.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes.
I'm very excited. I don't watch anything right now that I like because
It's so
we go to
good.
bed really
It's so
early.
good.
Is it really good? I've gotta check it out. Yeah. She's my favorite superhero because that's what I grew up with.
Yeah. Did you watch that?
80s.
No.
Yeah, I watch TV.
I was curious because usually it's like the fans of She-Ra, you're still gonna watch He-Man as well.
Yeah.
I love the crossover episodes too. Those are always awesome. All right, I'm gonna open the floor up to questions. Oh, we have lots of questions. All right, sir.
Hi.
Hi.
Kind of going back to, I know we kind of did glance over the 4400. I know that's kind of the first time you played like a screwed up kind of mental person. I was wondering what you prepared for that, and then after that going into River, if that kind of somewhat translated, and then you played a Terminator robot, and at some point you're like, Is there something about me that
You know, for years I think, for years when I would get asked, you know, why are you being typecast as like emotionally
Yeah.
damaged people? And I would try to, you know, I would try to come up with well, you know, I researched and I had to watch a lot of videos, but that's not really true. I didn't have to read anything or anything. It was all inside of me. It was all inside of me. I think acting is extremely therapeutic, and those roles were all pieces of me. So for me, like I said before, I get into the physicality of the character, and then I just imagine myself in that scenario, and it's really not that difficult for me to I have a really vivid imagination, and I can really put myself in that moment. But it was interesting yesterday listening to all the different actresses talk about their process and how no two are alike.
Yeah. And that's why I like that question, because everybody, you know, some people are method, some people you know, pull from different experiences in their life. It's like everyone has a different way of connecting to a character, but that's why it's, acting is art, and that's it's all open to your own interpretation to it and how you connect.
And it's very different from
beautiful.
dancing in a way, because when you're doing ballet, you're looking in the mirror and you and all of your friends are dressed exactly the same and you're doing the exact same movements. And with acting, every role has, you know, everything about it is different.
Yep.
And I would also get the question or the critique of, you know, why are you getting typecast as the crazy girl? And I never felt that way. I felt like each one of my characters had completely different experiences and stories, and yes, they were not, they were atypical. You know, they all kind of stood out for being, you know, odd in their, you know, away from the crowd, away from the norm. They were, you know, on a different frequency, but I felt like they were all different, and I tried to make them all different, but they were all part of me, I guess.
Yes, sir.
There's 1,000 questions I'd like to ask.
I wish we had more time.
With recently losing one of the family, can you talk about some of your experiences working with Ron Glass?
Oh, yes. Ron was the most seasoned of our crew, which is saying a lot, because some of the actors from our cast had worked a lot, but Ron brought with him the gravity of so much experience in the industry. And another really cool thing about him is that he's a Buddhist, very grounded, very centered, with such an open perspective, and yet he had this biting, sarcastic humor, and it was a beautiful marriage. It was like he could really like put a button on a scene for us, a day where we would all be at the table talking and you know, making jokes and laughing or talking or complaining, because you know that does happen from time to time. Like we would just have this perfect one-liner that would sum it all up, or like put us in our place, and it was hilarious. I think it was great for me to be around him, because I was sort of the opposite. I was the new kid who had never worked before, and I had, you know, this really kind of airy, nervousy energy. And to work with him in a scene was just so fun. The contrast of our life experience so far. I feel so blessed to have been in his atmosphere. And he had the most delicious, addicting laugh. He had the laugh, I like to call it like tickling an angel. It was like, you would just feel so good from being around his laugh. And once he would laugh, then all of us would laugh. And that's what I remember most, is the sound of his laugh.
I wish we had more time. Everyone, like, if there's anything you're currently working on, or some like awesome news, like, what's been going on with you before we
Oh,
wrap
well.
everything
Well, I'm not working as much right now because I've got two little ones. I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I'm mostly taking care of them, which is the best job I've ever had. But I'm in a show that's coming out this summer called Woo Assassins.
Ooh.
Which is, I've seen clips of it, and man, it is beautiful, with real martial artists. Real, beautiful, incredible,
So awesome.
lots of action and a beautiful story. So I'm in that. That's on Netflix, and it's coming out this summer. And then the other thing I'm doing right now is I'm doing a narration for an audio series called Alternates, which is like a sci-fi a fantasy thriller. And so I'm narrating it, playing all the voices, and it's so fun. I'm having a great time with it. That's already out, but I'm still recording. I still have more episodes to do. So that's it for right now. I'm hanging out with y'all.
Well, as you guys know, she has, you have a little happening.
Why should
Probably.
Yes.
What's next, Angel? Photo.
Photo, yeah.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, see her, say hi. And,
Yeah, thanks, guys.